It was the fairy tale ending every fan had hoped for. After years of turmoil and heartache, Amy Roloff, the matriarch of the Little People, Big World dynasty, found her second chance at love. Her wedding to Chris Marek, held on the very farm that held so much of her history, was a picture of pure happiness. A new beginning, a new partner, a new life. It seemed perfect. But what if the smiles were a performance? What if just days before they said, "I do," the entire wedding was on the verge of collapsing under the weight of a secret, ugly battle? A battle over money, trust, and a shocking demand that revealed Chris Marek's true colors. We have received information from sources extremely close to the wedding planning, sources who witnessed the private war that was raging behind the scenes. They claimed that the foundation of this marriage was nearly shattered before it even began, by a bitter and shocking fight over a pre-nuptial agreement. A fight that exposed a secret Chris was hiding, and a demand so greedy it left Amy feeling betrayed and horrified. If you are shocked to hear that this fairy tale had such a dark secret, hit that like button right now. Let the YouTube algorithm know that the truth matters and that fans deserve to know what was really happening when the cameras were off. And make sure you are subscribed to LPBW Update and have clicked that notification bell, because the details of this story are explosive and you will not want to miss our follow-up investigation. All right, let's lay out the timeline of this secret crisis. To understand the stakes, you have to understand Amy's financial position at the time. She had just sold her portion of Roloff Farms, a multi-million-dollar transaction. This wasn't just a number in a bank account. This was her declaration of independence. It was the nest egg she had earned through 30 years of sweat, tears, and public life. It was her security, her legacy, and her power. It was hers. Naturally, with a wedding on the horizon and millions of dollars at play, the idea of a pre-nuptial agreement came up. Our sources tell us it was Amy's children, particularly Zach and Jeremy, who first urged her to protect her assets. It wasn't about distrusting Chris. It was about being smart. It was a standard legal precaution to ensure the money meant for her and her children's future was secure. Amy, being a practical woman, agreed. She approached Chris about it, expecting a simple, straightforward conversation. She thought they would sit down with lawyers, sign the papers, and move on with planning their happy day. She could not have been more wrong. When Amy first mentioned the word prenup, Chris's entire demeanor changed. The easygoing, charming smile vanished. He became defensive, hurt, and offended. He allegedly turned it back on her, playing the victim. He said things like, "After all this time, you don't trust me? You think I'm some kind of gold digger? I thought what we had was about love, not contracts." He was trying to emotionally manipulate her, to make her feel guilty for being responsible. Amy was taken aback, but she held firm, explaining it was just a legal formality. But Chris wouldn't let it go, and his fierce opposition raised a huge red flag for Amy's inner circle. Why was he fighting this so hard? The answer, our source reveals, is the first bombshell in this story. Chris was hiding a massive, secret debt. We're told that from a previous failed real estate venture years ago, Chris was carrying a staggering personal debt that he had never fully disclosed to Amy. It was a dark cloud from his past that he was hoping his new life with Amy and her new fortune could simply erase. A prenup would have exposed this. It would have legally separated his financial baggage from her assets, forcing him to deal with it on his own. When his emotional manipulation didn't work and Amy insisted on moving forward with the lawyers, Chris's desperation allegedly turned into aggression. He realized he was cornered. And that's when he dropped the second, more shocking bombshell, his demand. In a heated meeting with the lawyers present, Chris laid out his terms. He would agree to sign a prenup, but only if it included two catastrophic clauses. First, he demanded that Amy's fortune be used to immediately pay off his entire pre-existing debt. He wanted to walk into the marriage with a clean slate paid for by her. But the second demand was the one that left Amy breathless. He demanded a clause that would entitle him to 50% of all her future earnings, 50% of her little people big world salary, 50% of any book deals, 50% of any public appearance fees, 50% of any business venture she launched. He wasn't just trying to clear his old debts. He was trying to secure a lifelong paycheck for himself, turning Amy Roloff from his partner into his personal cash machine. He was looking at her and seeing a golden goose. Our source described the aftermath of that meeting as absolute chaos. Amy was devastated. This wasn't the man she thought she knew. This was a ruthless negotiator who was looking at their marriage as a business merger where he held all the leverage. The trust between them was shattered. The wedding, which was just weeks away, was unofficially called off. Amy reportedly told her closest friends, "I can't do this. I can't marry a man who looks at me like an investment." The lawyers were at a standstill. The family was in turmoil. Chris's greed had pushed them to the brink. They were in the middle of an ugly, high-stakes legal battle while simultaneously pretending for the cameras that everything was a perfect fairy tale. So how did we get from a canceled wedding and a bitter legal war to the happy ceremony we all saw on TV? What happened in those final days to bridge such a massive divide? The answer lies in a secret compromise. A last-minute clause that was added to the prenup that we're told is a ticking time bomb. Chris didn't get his 50%, but he got something else. Something that Amy, under immense pressure and heartbroken, finally agreed to. And what's worse, one of Amy's own children found out about the ugly battle and the shocking demands. They tried to stop the wedding themselves, leading to a family betrayal that has been festering ever since. In part 2 of this investigation, we will reveal the secret poison pill clause that Chris managed to get into the final pre-nup. We will expose which of Amy's children knew the truth and confronted her, begging her not to go through with it. And we will uncover the devastating consequences that this secret battle is having on their marriage today. Stay tuned to LPBW Update. The truth behind the I do's is about to be exposed. We expose the ugly, secret war that almost destroyed Amy and Chris's wedding before it even began. We revealed that behind the fairy tale smiles, Chris Marek was hiding a massive secret debt and had made a shocking demand in their prenup negotiations. He wanted 50% of all of Amy's future earnings. The greed, the betrayal, it pushed them to the brink, and the wedding was secretly called off. We left you with the biggest question of all. How did they go from a bitter legal battle to a beautiful wedding ceremony? The answer is not a happy compromise. It's a story of pressure, desperation, and a ticking time bomb hidden in the fine print. The standoff was brutal. Amy was heartbroken, feeling like the man she loved had revealed a dark, opportunistic side. Chris was cornered, his financial desperation laid bare. The wedding was off. The deposits were at risk. The network and the fans were expecting a fairy tale. The pressure was immense. Our source, close to the negotiations, described the final desperate days. Amy wouldn't budge on the 50% demand. It was a deal breaker. It felt, in her words, like indentured servitude. Chris, realizing he had overplayed his hand and was about to lose everything, finally backed down from that demand. But he wasn't going to walk away with nothing. He came back with a new proposal, a different kind of clause, something more subtle, but in the long run, perhaps even more insidious. This is what our source calls the poison pill clause. Chris agreed to keep his finances separate and gave up the claim on her future earnings, but with one huge exception. He proposed a sunset clause with a twist. A standard sunset clause in a prenup means that after a certain number of years of marriage, the prenup simply expires. Chris's version was different. He insisted on a very short timeline. reportedly just 5 years. After 5 years of marriage, the prenup would become void. But here's the poison pill. The clause also stipulated that if the marriage ended before the 5-year mark, for any reason other than his own infidelity, he would be entitled to a massive lump sum payout. The amount, we are told, is a staggering 7-figure number. Do you see the trap he set? He created a no-win situation for Amy. If she stays married to him for 5 years, he gets a legal claim to her assets in a divorce. If she leaves him before 5 years, she has to write him a check for millions of dollars just to get rid of him. He essentially built himself a golden parachute, guaranteeing he would walk away a rich man no matter what happened. It was financial extortion disguised as a legal compromise. Under immense pressure, with the wedding date looming and not wanting to face the public humiliation of a cancellation, Amy, against her better judgment, agreed. She signed it, the wedding was back on, but the secret wasn't kept. One of her children found out about the ugly battle in the final toxic clause, and that person was Jeremy Roloff. Our insider claims that Jeremy, who has always been protective of the family's business and financial legacy, got wind of the details from a concerned family friend. He was horrified. He saw the poison pill for exactly what it was, a trap. He believed Chris had cornered his mother and taken advantage of her desire for a happy ending. Jeremy reportedly drove to Amy's house for a private, emotional confrontation. It wasn't angry like Zach's confrontation in our other stories. It was a desperate plea. He begged his mother not to go through with it. He allegedly said, "Mom, please don't sign this. Can't you see what he's doing? He's locked you in. This isn't love. It's a business deal where you are guaranteed to lose. Just walk away. It's better to be embarrassed now than to be trapped for the rest of your life." Amy, exhausted from the fight and already committed, felt betrayed by her son's intervention. She saw it as him not supporting her happiness. They had a terrible fight, and a deep rift was created between them, a rift that our source says has never fully healed. Jeremy and Audrey's smiles at the wedding were, we are told, a painful performance for their mother's sake. They were watching her walk right into the trap they had warned her about. So the wedding happened. The pictures were beautiful. The show aired a perfect episode, but the poison pill clause began to work its magic immediately. It has been hanging over their marriage ever since, creating a toxic dynamic that we are now seeing the effects of. Think about it. Every argument they have, every disagreement, the clause is the elephant in the room. Amy knows that if she pushes too hard, if she stands up for herself too much, and Chris decides to leave, it will cost her a fortune. She is, in effect, being held financially hostage in her own marriage. This explains so much of what we've seen recently. The forced smiles, the reports of tension, the stories of Chris's controlling behavior. Why doesn't she just leave? Because of the prenup. He built the cage and she willingly walked into it, and now she is realizing the door has been locked behind her. The consequences are devastating. Our sources say the stress of this situation is the real reason behind Amy's rumored financial struggles. It's not just about bad investments. It's about the constant looming threat of this payout. It prevents her from making any bold financial moves and keeps her tied to the TLC paycheck, as it's her only guaranteed source of income to protect her from the fallout. The rift with Jeremy remains. He feels he was right all along, and it's painful for him to watch his mother live with the consequences of the choice she made. The family is fractured by a secret that started in a lawyer's office. So the fairy tale wedding was, in reality, the signing of a contract that guaranteed one person would get rich and the other would be trapped. The prenup battle wasn't just a bump in the road. It was the defining event of their relationship. It exposed the truth and then bound them together in a legal arrangement that favors control over love. The 5-year clock is ticking, and every day that passes brings the poison pill closer to its devastating conclusion. Thank you for joining us on LPBW Update. The story of this family is more complex than you could ever imagine. Make sure you are subscribed as we will continue to follow the fallout from this shocking revelation.